Welcome back, Radio Detox in the house with one of my friends. We've got Seth from Zap.Cooking. He's one of the OG Nostriches, and so is Zap.Cooking. So welcome, Seth.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks for having me.
Hey, this is great because I wanted to hear your Nostr story just to kick things off because you were just a tried and true Nostrich all the way, Seth.
Well, kind words. I began my Nostr journey in February, so it'll be coming up on 3 years, February 2023. And I was in the class that I think Jack Dorsey had tweeted about Damus, and I was like, "Ooh, what's that?" And just the sort of structure of it, just was attractive, and I was like, "Oh, let's continue down this path." Never really like a huge social media buff or like trying to be famous or anything like that, but just the design of it was so intriguing. And it was just a place for curious people to congregate and learn a little bit. And it was like this new frontier. And 3 years later, here we are,
Here we
in
are.
a totally different world and building in a new direction.
I joined too, but I got on and went, "What is this?" And I bounced and I didn't come back until November of 2023. So did you get on February 2023 and then you stayed from that point on?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was like right when Damus was released. So Damus was
Mhm.
like a pretty, user friendly client. It wasn't as janky as some of the original Nostra clients, and it was a mobile app and I have Apple device, so it worked, and it was like, whoa, this is cool. And then it just reminded me of like the early days of the internet, whenever people were talking in chat rooms, and there was just pure, real strangers across from each other, not like filtered strangers, right?
Right.
And you could just have a conversation about anything, and it was just like this like free feeling of like coming over to this place
Yeah.
where you could just talk about anything. And then zaps came along and original lightning invoicing, and it just became a fun place to be.
And you came over from Twitter. So what did you immediately quit Twitter or did that happen at a later time?
No, it was a little bit later. Twitter became, I always liken it to Twitter's like the destructive side of the internet. And maybe there's good reason for it, right? The political system was a little shaky at best, and Twitter just sort of pushed it over the edge. But it really became everything. It was about politics and getting politicized over there. So I call it like the destructive network. So it's like breaking things down. And then Nostr on the flip side is more like a constructive network where people are just building new things and just bolting on, new ideas, and it's all coming together here.
Now, were you like a Bitcoin Twitter kind of guy before Nostr?
Not, I don't know. I think it's kind of cringe to even like be like, in the Bitcoin Twitter group, right? Like I
Yeah.
get that it's a community that exists, but I mean, I followed different people, I guess is probably safe to say. I followed all sorts of people, from technologists to philosophers to, some Bitcoin Twitter people. And I got into Bitcoin in like 2019, right around the pandemic, because it was like obvious something was happening, and all this money stuff was about to change. And so I just kept going down the rabbit hole with that, and then just eventually, a couple of years later, lead me to Nostr, and it just, they fit well together, like a good
Yeah.
puzzle piece. It just clicks, and it seems to work here on Nostr as in Bitcoin.
It just works. So you've been around for 3 years. At what point did you say, "You know what? I'm gonna make Zap.Cooking. I'm gonna do this. I want my own Nostr app." Because I think that in the early days, that's a lot stronger that you did that then than like now everybody's got it. I've got apps, and I don't have an app as good as Zap.Cooking. But like what led to that?
Yeah, it was it was in the early days. We used to talk all the time in Nostr Nest, and we would just, a lot of us were working from home, and we would have these conversations, online during the day, and people would just talk about different things, about setting up lightning addresses and different internet related sort of things. And the idea of like domain names came up, and we were talking about domain names and DNS and all that sort of hot nerd talk. And
Hot Nerd Talk should be an app.
duck. And the idea was about, oh, we got this Nostr thing, it might catch on, so let's go get some Nostr related domains. They could be big someday. So I was just literally looking for Nostr dot anything, and just
Yeah.
sort of exploring different ideas. And Nostr.Cooking was available. I'm like, well, people like to eat, so let's try this. And then I put a bounty out there for, this is pre vibe coding days. And so I put a bounty out there to work with a developer and got in touch with a developer named Teal. And he built the first version of Nostr.Cooking. And it was born, right? And it's taken on several iterations, several developers, worked with a lot of different people over the last 3 years who've contributed. And it's, it's kind of a Nostra community staple. A lot of people go there for recipes and sharing food culture and different things. And so it's pretty
Gotta
cool.
eat. Gotta eat, gotta cook. I've been
Everyone's
cooking.
hungry.
Nothing I've made lately is worthy of being on Zap.Cooking. I've been very lazy lately where it's like, well, let's throw it all in a pan.
Well, the best, arguably one of the top recipes on the site is Bevo's Worcester and chips, which is literally a bag of Lay's and some Worcester sauce and mix it up. And,
I think that's where girl dinner. I think that's where I'm at, where it's like, we used to call it an angry meal growing up, where like it was just, you threw everything in a pan and just like prayed. It was like, it was if your spouse was angry, they made you an angry meal, which is just throwing random things from a fridge into a pan. That's what I've been doing lately. Making like random angry meals and girl dinners.
Well, nothing wrong with that. I mean,
it's life. It's all good.
It's life. It is.
I have good recipes that I should put on Zap.Cooking that come from like now defunct food magazines and things that I don't make because I don't make the time to cook. I'm not going to say I don't have time to cook. I just don't make the time and I don't prioritize it. But if I did cook, there are some good things that I could put on Zap.Cooking, which is kind of the point of it is to share and share alike. And I love that the most popular recipe is chips. I can get behind that.
Simple as easy, but that's the cool thing is, it is a peer-to-peer network and people are sharing with other plebs and it's a beautiful thing.
If people have never seen Zap.Cooking before, like how does it work and what makes it different from there being like a million, I don't know, recipe blogs out there that you're going to Google a recipe and then you've got to read about somebody's like grandma's life story to get to the recipe.
Yeah, well, that was intentional, behind all of this was let's make something that's simple, that is easy for people to use, that you don't have to go through the whole, Christmas tale of how, it came to be. Now we can include that, but we just don't lead with that. We have sections for notes and stuff like that. But
it can be there, but yeah,
it can be there, but it's not out front and center. And you know what? I swear to God, because I do like research on other what competitors are doing in like the cooking space, right? In this one, I was looking up a recipe, and I shit you not, I had 19 ads. I counted them, 19 ads on one recipe page. Yeah, it was crazy. Some were shoes.
Like none as I look at my Zap.Cooking because I can zap things, and like I like how you've got the new website is really awesome. And you know what? I think I know who made it. I'm gonna look. Hang on. I bet. Great. That's JVN's recipe. All right, because I thought that might be my friend Heidi's recipe for ground beef birria. All right, so it's got 500 sats zapped to it. I can see traditional Mexican stew, 15 minutes cook time, 5 minutes prep time. See, I can get behind that. So shout out to our friend JBN for having that recipe up there. But yeah, there's a good. I mean, like the first things that come up look really delicious and like food I would actually make. I don't see the chips in the Worcester sauce, so.
Yeah, they're somewhere in the mix.
It's somewhere in there, but yeah, it's made the literal cream rise. We can zap your top recipes. We can zap them to the top. Maybe is that how it works?
No, I mean there's still some logic to build into that. Right now we have a curated recipes, so we group it by like categories and types of recipes, which are on the Explore page, and then we have essentially all our recent recipes in order of what they've recently been submitted. So if you're submitting a fresh one, you're usually, there's a way to be top of the page. We encourage those new recipes to come on over and get zapped.
Is cooking your passion, Seth?
I'm not like, there are people that are passionate about it. I have a friend who's like a chef and like, it's like his job and he even likes to do it like on the side. Now, I
Oh,
like to
that's
cook,
crazy.
and I'm a good cook. I'm probably a natural cook, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I can put stuff together, with that garbage meal, I can make it nice and pretty, you know? But yeah, I mean, I certainly, I grew up in a family, both my parents were good cooks, always had good soup,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So,
Okay, one of the I don't know if it's controversial or it's just gotten attention, but I'm looking at the pizza beans recipe right now
but yeah,
that you put up. Daniel was talking smack about it for a minute there, and I saw he made it.
he's converted. Yeah. I mean, it'll lure you in. It's not funny. You're like, haha, pizza beans. And it's got a funny sounding name, pizza
Seriously.
beans, right?
I know,
But,
because you look at we've got a good picture though.
yeah, it's like, there's an attraction to it. It's like, okay, pizza beans, haha. And next thing you know, you're scooping up some pizza beans because you're like, yeah,
Low
got
carb.
fiber and good for you.
Well, that's the thing. Like I have like a recipe desert that I've been living in where I'm just making easy food rather than good food or tasty food. I'm eating for fuel because I'm on a fitness kick and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna eat the healthy food and I'll just suck it up. I'm not gonna eat anything fancy. I don't have time to make anything fancy. Most things I make are slow cooker kinds of things, or
Nice.
I live in the slow cooker and the air fryer, so I need to find like the slow. We need like a slow cooker page for me. But pizza beans though, this
You
looks
got to try it.
good. It's a fast, family-friendly dinner that's as satisfying as it is simple. With just beans, marinara sauce, and cheese, you can have a bubbling, cheesy, pizza-inspired casserole on the table in about 20 minutes. This is good stuff.
Quick and
I
easy.
know
Families
QW
love it.
has, yeah, okay. QW's recipes are on here somewhere. I'm gonna have to look him up because I know that his wife is an amazing cook. And
Hmm.
so I've got to figure out, like, I know they put recipes on here like over the years,
Yeah,
and that's kind of
I'm
the
sure
point.
he's got a few on there.
Like we all know people who have recipes on Zap.Cooking. So here's what's interesting to me that you mentioned is that like 3 years ago you kind of embarked on this journey of going to developers, putting up a bounty and saying, "Hey, I'll pay you to make this cooking website." And today, 2026, it's kind of a different ball game. Like you can just vibe code this. Like you can just with the AI tools we have now, you can just kind of do this yourself. Is that kind of the path that it's I mean, I kind of know the answer to this question, but I want you to explain it to people watching or listening. Like how is this different now? Are you doing this yourself?
Yeah, I am for the most part. Daniel's contributing a lot too. Actually, he was responsible for the wallet integration. So big kudos to him. Actually, and going way back, he was the designer of the logo here. Yeah, because it was originally Nostr.Cooking. I put this sort of crappy, like, what was the word for doc? It was, like boomer type thing. I'm putting like stickers up together and stuff, and and it was like sort of last minute. And I went to Bitcoin Park. It was there for the first Nostrville
Mhm.
and it was I had some magnets to give away. So there's a couple OGs. I think QW still has his
I know you went to Nostrville.
Nostr.Cooking original magnet, which someday on eBay, I think these things are going to command a premium. So you might want to hold on
Someday.
to them.
The original Nostr cooking site was Nostr.Cooking. Was that the original
Hmm.
Nostrville 1 at Bitcoin Park, Nashville? Or
Yeah, which would have been maybe it was 2023 towards the fall, I think. Yeah.
yeah, it would have had to been because we just had the third one. I went to the third one in
Yeah.
Nashville. I didn't go to the first two, but I went to the third one. So there's a little Nostr history, folks, of like Nostr started out as a thing that you could just build on, provided you made friends with a dev or paid a dev a bounty. And then, now Nostr is something you can build on yourself. And that's the 3 year arc that has happened. It's kind of,
Yeah. Imagine where we're going to be in 3 more years,
I can't.
you know?
Like I can't even fathom where this will be in 3 years because look at how much has happened in just 3 years. 3 years ago I was
Yeah. Well,
probably just on Twitter.
I think the essential difference with Nostr is that people are first of all, it attracts creative and curious people.
Hmm.
So the people that are there, everyone you interact with, you got a handful of trolls, but for the most part, like the real genuine people are just like real people and they're really curious and there's like no facade and it's just like, hey, I'm here and I'm kind of exploring what this is, right? So like we have this natural tendency to have these like creative people and builders like together, and you know, some people are building music, some people are building websites, some people are building relationships, some people are building conferences, podcasts, you name it. So it's really a builder's economy on
Yeah,
Nostr.
I've grown fascinated lately with people who I think there's a in our cohort of Noster folk. I think that there's a good chunk of us who have now left the fiat mines to work in Bitcoin and or Noster full time, and I've been fascinated with that lately. Of who's done it, who wants to do it, is there interest in people wanting to do it, and how are they finding opportunities? Because there's like a kind of a few little, I don't know, freelance kind of work websites popping up. And of course, there's like bitcoinerjobs.com, which I think is probably the most popular way to find a Bitcoin job. But I think that that's one thing that fascinates me right now, other than the vibe coding, is like we all have this conviction of like we want to be in this space, at least like full time doing this. And then it kind of becomes a conflict between, you know, the day job or the career that we've had. And then we all kind of want to like jump over, maybe not all of us, but some people want to jump over into working completely in this space. And I don't know if that is more possible yet. I think it kind of depends on what you want to do. But I don't know. That's one of my fascinations as well. It's as well as people like yourself that make apps. You're like it's not just Zap.Cooking. There's more. Where you're making things that you want to see in the world, and you're doing that on Nostr because it's open source. It's pretty easy. I mean, you could have just made Zap.Cooking, like you could have made a cooking website, but you made a Nostr cooking website specifically. And I don't know if you want to speak to the difference between like, yeah, I could have just made a recipe blog, but I chose Nostr specifically because, was there any certain reason or set of reasons that kind of led you that way?
Well, yeah, I mean it's the full architecture. I mean, it's the portable identity, it's the interoperability, it's that you can post your recipes on Zap.Cooking, and then you can go over to Damus and read through and see your recipe over there as a note. Or, you know, you can go to Yakahone and you know, read different articles and then come across your recipe there. Or it's just, you know, it and also, let's not forget that we have Bitcoin integrated into everything. You know, all the sort of
Yeah.
Web3 promises and all this kind of stuff that was happening in like crypto space and cryptoville. It was all just like this, you know, theoretical concept. And, you know, some had some working models, but it was always clunky and unclear about what the heck token you're dealing with. And here on Nostr, it's just simple, right? It's just like, you know,
Yeah,
Lightning
just Bitcoin.
integration and Bitcoin. And it's just like keep it simple, right? And then, you know, build on top of that. We have all these you know, different apps with cashew and, you know, big opportunities on the upside. But it's all Bitcoin. And we know it works. It's fundamentally just a good design.
It brings together, like you said, like the most creative, kind of innovative people. And here's not just a cooking website, but a cooking website with all of our friends. And, you know, you can see everybody on Noster's recipes. And, you know, that's just, it's another way to build
Yeah. Well,
community.
I'll you know, and I'll tell you, that's one of the things, and you were at Nostra Valley, and I talked about that there is, you know, one of the things we're kind of pivoting towards and leaning in towards and running towards is, you know, community based concepts. So, you know, not only do we have the recipe, you know, aspect of the website, but we have the community aspect, which is, you know, I do a client side filtering for food related posts and food related notes, which pops up there. But more recently, we're making a step towards community based relays. So I text you before this and I said, you're
I
in
was
the
going to
garden
ask.
now.
Yeah, I'm in the garden. What's the garden? I was like, what is this? What garden am I in? Is this a new feature?
Well, you're in the garden, and the garden is a Zap.Cooking relay,
Ooh.
and it is a pyramid style relay. So there's a lot of functionality and flexibility that you can do with this type of relay. You can sort of toggle in between all these conversations. You can have like group chats within the members of the relay. There's a lot of creative things you can do, and right now it's just sort of baseline where there's I think like 7 people that are on the relay, and what you can do is you can invite people onto the relay. There's a garden.zap.cooking website you can go and log in, and you can invite people under your name, and so you can bring them into the relay and into the conversation. So it's a curated conversation, but it's curated through the relay itself. So pretty cool, and
That's
I'm
very
pretty
cool.
excited to sort of build in that direction with some of
It's
those things.
As long as happening upon this podcast, because it's Radio Detox, right? We're detoxing you off of all of the fiat things that are horrible that people hate, from Twitter to Spotify to artists not getting paid on Spotify, like all of the old ways of doing things that kind of Bitcoin and Nostr together, these open protocols are solving. So if you're listening to this and you're like, huh? Like basically what you can do is if you do nothing else on Nostr, you could do Zap.Cooking. Like if all you want to do on the internet is food, then you've got Zap.Cooking. Like you don't even have to get on any of the other apps if you don't want to. Like if you just want to, cruise for recipes, maybe contribute recipes, this could start like a whole new thing to where people just like foodies can just be foodies and they don't have to worry about getting into a feed where maybe they see politics or, Bitcoin content that they don't want to see. I mean, this is just food, cooking.
Yeah, and there's television shows about cake out there,
I
specific food, specific
baking
cakes.
shows that
Right.
and so many of them, like here's the like child's baking show in London. I mean, like
Yeah, from London.
yeah, it's like they go hard,
Yes. It's like, can't wait till the Malaysia version comes out.
right?
It's like the Real Housewives too. They just keep coming up
Yeah,
with new intro titles.
and people will watch them and stuff. Sometimes I watch the baking
Yeah.
shows. I confess, I never bake anything, but I'll watch a baking show once a year. You got to watch a baking show. I think just to kind of like, I don't know. It's a palate cleanse. Like you don't get to eat
Yeah.
the food, but it's a good. I don't know. Just kind of gotta clear the head. Watch a baking show because I'm
It
never
is.
gonna.
It's a good like reset. It's like eating the ginger after
Yeah,
the
watch
sushi or whatever.
watch some expert person make some fancy like 15 tiered cake with marzipan and figurines made out of melted M&Ms or something. I don't know, but it's just like things that I will never do. I don't think I'll
Right.
even buy a box of cupcake mix and do that. I've got all the
Well, maybe
stuff,
that's
all the
it. Maybe
baking stuff.
that's the secret.
Yeah.
Like, I like watching, college football or NFL, but I'm not going to get out and play it. But, it's like, I
My
like watching.
mother was the queen of watching television shows about cooking when my mother was alive. She did not miss a Julia Child. Yang Can Cook. I mean, I could go
Class.
I mentally list every TV show, probably like every cooking show of the 80s and 90s. I could probably list off if you gave me enough time. It would be like a nice cognitive test, right? I could list them all because she watched them all. This woman could not cook a damn thing, Seth. She would microwave everything. If it couldn't be microwave, I mean, this is like back in the day, we didn't have air fryers. My mother couldn't figure out how to turn on an oven, okay? She probably couldn't turn on a burner. I think she microwaved everything my entire life, but she did not miss a cooking show.
Yeah, I was going to
I'll
say
never figure
there
that
is a
one out.
generational, who was committed to the microwave. I get that.
The boomer generation. I grew. That was like the first
Yeah,
skill I was taught as a human being was when I could reach the countertop. It was here's how you microwave your food. I'm done taking care of
yeah,
you. Gen X. It
right.
was like we were
Hands
feral. It
off.
was like yeah. Here's some frozen otter pops, and you can reach the microwave. I'm going to work. You'll be fine. That was what
Yeah,
to my generation. But no, we love Zap.Cooking. I think sometimes we forget on Nostr, no, this is the tirade I've been on for this week, and it will probably last because this is my aha moment with Nostr this week is that we're making a lot of we have smart people making apps for other smart people when what we need is more Zap.Cooking. We need more websites that people are going to use who are like, forgive me for saying it so harshly, but we need more apps for the stupid people, like the average people, the people who aren't like like oh my god, make me an app
or the
to
people
manage.
passionate about cooking.
Exactly, like we need more things to bring people into Nostr that are just freaking normal, like everybody
Yeah,
eats, everybody cooks, and you have like a whole, I would say, suite of these actually, because
yeah.
it's
Well,
addicting.
that's one of the things. I mean, we gotta remind ourselves is that it is about building community, and And Nostr is small, so we have this sort of the big feeds, or the people you follow.
Mhm.
It's already a lot of interaction and engagement, but
Yeah.
but to get users over to Nostr, we got to simplify it. Make it attractive, right? We got to compete with the folks who are making regular apps in the App Store, and say we're just going to do it better, right? Like the user shouldn't even know that Nostr's on the back end of it, and they should just be
There
able to
you go.
interact with it and say this is really cool,
This
and
this is
just sort of.
awesome. Works great. Answers all my questions. Helps me cook. Helps me not make angry meals and girl dinners and cleaning out the fridge and throwing it into a pan and just turning it on and seeing what happens. Like there's a
Yeah,
tiramisu recipe. Like if I want to make tiramisu, I can get one on Zap.Cooking. And I
yeah.
ability to create that community around food. It's especially across the miles. Like we're at different sides of the country. I did get to meet you in real life this last October, 2025. Got to go to State College, go to Nostr Valley. Got to see you in person with Derek. You guys putting on the Nostr Valley. We're doing it again this year, right? We're gonna all reconvene and.
We're gonna do it again this year. Date is probably sometime mid-October.
Mhm.
To be determined for a final. But this was our second year, and each year both of them were, I think, successful.
Yeah.
If you want to like be there for pure signal, that's the
Mhm.
place to be.
It was good because I don't know. I didn't know the area very well. I'm a very West Coast person. I know the West Coast, western side of the country really well, but I don't know the East Coast at all. And it was so cool to have people who were driving out from like New York, DC area. People drove out from all over Pennsylvania to come hang out with us in State College, and that was just so awesome too. And coming from Arizona, I was like stunned by the beauty of it and how nice and how calm it was. And it just that little area there, it just felt like being in a Hallmark movie. I loved it. It was a nice little
Yeah,
break for
awesome.
me.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty time of year in Pennsylvania.
It was very cool. So we'll do it again this year. Okay, I want to kind of highlight a couple of the other apps that you have made because Zap.Cooking is not the only one. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the next two apps we'll talk about actually came about because of vibe coding, right?
Yeah.
They became possible. And so, like, let's start with Grateful Day because that is one that you just kind of do every day. Like, you put a little gratitude on Nostr every single day, Seth.
Well, it was started as an idea, right? And forever since I've been on Nostr, I've been posting these, not every morning, but most mornings I post these, what I call my daily readers. So I'm surrounded by books. I got physical books, I got Kindle books, and I like these sort of just morning wake up, and I have this rhythm I've sort of programmed myself to. When I wake up, I let the dogs out, and then I stand outside and wait for them to do their dog things, and I just give gratitude for the day. And it's always like interesting to sort of discover like what you're grateful for, because you go through like the handful of stuff. Well, I'm thankful for my house and my family, and this and that, and then you sort of run out, and then like on garbage day, it's like I'm grateful for the garbage people that come pick up my garbage, because and so I've been doing that, just kind of using some of these readings as a guide, and I was like, well, why don't I just build an app where I can just wake up every morning and sort of do a daily affirmation for gratitude practices, and maybe somebody else will benefit. So this was something I started on Shakespeare, and built the framework for it, and it goes through each day, and there's a little circle that goes around, and sort of throughout the year, and it has a daily reflection and a daily affirmation, and then you can post your what you're grateful for this day, and you can share it to Nostr as a kind one, or I have a specific kind, which is like, I think it's a 3669 or something like that, which is, just playing around with it. But I've been using it for a couple months now. I like it as a daily sort of GM protocol, because it's, gets that gratitude fix in
Yeah.
there as well. But, it's web based now. Going to try to continue to build out more. This year, I'm hoping Zap.Cooking is steps away from approval in the App Store, and then we'll be on Android and App Store and Apple.
That's
But hoping to
huge.
do that with some of these other ones as well. Because people,
Yeah.
web-based things are great. And I do kind of like the nostalgia of it and the simplicity of it. But at the end of the day, users are
Yeah.
on their phones, on mobile apps, and
These things rule our
our
world.
goal should be, yeah, exactly.
Phone is
But
always in the hand.
yeah,
Or not
yeah,
too far
and
away.
right. And the goal should be to break the Facebook.com and get people off of
Yeah.
that and get onto these new type of apps that are just different, right? And they're community
Get people
based,
out in
but
the
they're
world.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so funny. One day I was in Target and like I have my shopping list. It's on my phone as I would think people would have a shopping list on their phone. And the lady in Target stopped me because she thought I was one of those delivery people who was like putting together an order because she just saw me like staring at my phone and walking around and putting things in my cart. And she was like, "Oh, are you like it with DoorDash?" And I was like, "No, I have a to-do list. I have like a list on my phone." I was like, "Look, like I have a list program to so I can like go through and check things off in the store when I buy them, and then hopefully I don't forget things because I'll go to Target 3 times a week and still forget to buy toilet paper, and it'll be like the one thing
Yeah,
I
right.
need, and I'll forget it, right? Because that's just human life and modern life. We can't remember shit, but we have more tools at our disposal than ever, right? But she she thought because I guess that's what people in stores are doing now, and I'm like, really? Like people aren't just in here with like a grocery list, or they're not just in here with like a recipe, like trying to like find the food going in and out of the aisles. And she was like, no, everybody's like DoorDash or Instacart. And I just thought that was so weird. Just like,
Yeah.
and you just
Well,
reminded me of that because I was like, do people not shop for food themselves? Apparently not. I guess that makes. But I've also heard that like a whole generation doesn't want to have cars, so probably not. Like the whole Gen Z not wanting. My niece and nephew have cars; they want to drive, but so I don't know if that's true. If my kids are
yeah, it's
the
it's a
ones to judge it
weird
by.
mixed place we're at.
Yeah, this
Yeah, yeah.
we live in weird times.
Definitely interesting times. And yeah, I think people's, behaviors have changed. And you're gonna have sort of the divide. You're gonna have like there's people that are out there doing runster and hiking and being active, and then there's people that are, on their, meta headsets and not leaving
Yeah.
the house. So
Oh yeah,
you got
it's
all
weird.
sorts of different kinds.
Takes all kinds, as my grandmother would say. It was funny. Like one of the
Right.
first things people wanted to build when we launched Shakespeare was people were like, we could build the Uber version of Nostr, and I was like, oh my god, is that really the first thing people are thinking of? Like, I didn't
When
expect
it
that.
are.
And
Yeah.
that was weird to me. I was like, we have Uber and Lyft, and well, I live in Phoenix, so there's a lot of Waymo, and so I'm like, okay, so d- I don't see that happening until Nostr would have to be so popular to where that would make sense, and you could create an app that would be on par with Uber or Lyft or Waymo. But I don't think we're there yet. I think right now it feels more like you'd be doxing your location, and like that might be a
Yeah,
little
right.
scary. Like
Yeah.
I love my strangers on the internet, but I don't want you to know where to pick me up. Like that's my boundary for right now. But I have met a lot of you in real life. I'm certainly going to events the last couple of years. And you're one of the cool people I got to meet IRL, and I think the gratitude thing is an important practice. It brings cooking brings positivity to Nostr, brings community, and then you're putting gratitude on Nostr, which is great. And like you have such a solid gratitude process or practice. I mean, like that's awesome that you share it with us. I think you wake up a lot earlier than I do, so I don't always see them. People don't realize that Nostr's chronological. So, like, if Seth wakes up on the East Coast and he does his gratitude practice, I'm probably still asleep, and I don't always see the note unless I do get up really early sometimes, though. Sometimes I see them. So, you also have an app called Sober Key. So, you're one of my sober brothers. So, I'm so glad that there's this weird phenomenon in Nostr and Bitcoin where there's a lot of us who are sober folks, but I want to hear how you decided to kind of create a sober app. You're not the only person that came up with one of these sober apps, but you're one of the people who I think like it's public though, like anyone can use it.
Yeah, yeah, it's soberkey.org. And it's, the concept behind it. And one of the cool things about Nostr in general is that, its architecture is sort of like one of the founding of like AA is purely decentralized network. It doesn't have any
Exactly.
CEO. It doesn't have any, boss. People can just spin up their own little network wherever they are. And word gets around, right? And it works. So the idea was to just sort of overlay that with, sobriety and try to just give a space for people to have conversations about that, sort of in a 12-step modeled way. And it's sort of basic right now. I'd like to put some more time into that later on in the year as time allows to try to build that up. Again, going mobile first and then even sell it, not sell it, but like, pitch it to people who need it.
Yeah.
People who, they're like even services and things like that, and just offer them a tool for people to connect and communicate about, their own journey. And then, build some other tools along the way, similar to like the gratitude practice. Find ways to frame it in, a way that's asking some people to do the 12-step program, have like private journaling, stuff like that. So there's a lot of potential to continue to build out with it. But, the idea was sort of set out there and laid the groundwork, and just got to keep building on it and making it better and getting the word out there.
Yeah, I like how you bring up the decentralized nature of how AA began and what is it like it's more than 85 years old now. This process that
Yeah.
works where it's kind of democratic, there's no ruler, there's no company, there's no CEO. It's the same thing as Nostr. And that's the culmination of Radio Detox right there, is that we can detox off of all of the big systems. Like life does not have to be this hub and spoke wheel where there's a central thing that rules all of the extensions of it. Like if it worked for Alcoholics Anonymous to the point that everybody built on Alcoholics Anonymous, like there's now Narcotics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous. There's also
Hmm.
Al-Anon came out of AA, and it's Noster's a very similar kind of vibe where it's like if you think it needs to exist, you just make it, and you make it on Nostr. It's kind of very similar. It's oddly similar. The undercurrent of like sobriety that goes with Bitcoiners, that goes with not to say all Bitcoiners are sober by any means, but there's such a weird, I don't know, you find people like us that like we just think differently, and maybe we went down to a dark place and had an addiction, and then we got sober, and then we found Bitcoin, and then we got, sober off the fiat world. And then after that, along came Nostr, and then we could get sober off of, well, what we thought we were getting sober off of was just Twitter, right? Like we thought we were, detoxing off of social media, but then the deeper we went into Nostr, we realized we can actually build things on Nostr. Like it's not just social media. Like we built Runster and we built, and like now it has taken on a totally different meaning. So I think going forward, it's like people can come in, they have nothing to do. They don't have to have anything to do with Bitcoin or Nostr. They don't even need to know that these are kind of like the rails we built this on. They can just be like, oh, cool. This guy made a cool gratitude app, and he made a cooking app, and he made a sobriety app, and I can use all of these things. And it's just kind of, you find your community. Like if you want to be a sober and or a grateful person, there's apps for that. If you want to get into cooking and build community around recipes, like we've got an app for that. That's, I think, kind of the cool thing as we evolve, and what started out as I hate social media has become, oh hey, we can get away from really big decentralized things that have 20 ads when you go to the web page. It's kind of an interesting
Yeah. Well, the
evolution.
social media was like any technology, right? The telephone or anything, right? It has two sides to it where it can be, used in that constructive way. And then there are, the bad sides to it. And I think we had to go through the bad sides, with the Twitter and the banning and even like the Facebook and the ads and, how
Yeah.
normalized. And I think people are starting to wake up to it a little bit. I think that there is this renaissance of sort of like breaking away from, megacorp when it comes
Yeah.
to, some of the big, well, I don't know, maybe TikTok still has a strong hold on people, but I feel like, out there, and maybe it's because I don't see it, but, people are breaking
Yeah.
away from, Facebook and Instagrams and all those sort of surveillance technologies that, were too normalized and people are starting to see through it.
Well, you get a different email every day about, oh, your password or your email or whatever was in a data breach. I do anyway. I get them all the time now. I can't
Yeah.
even keep up on them. I pay for identity theft protection, and that's why I'm getting all these emails all the time because I've got something monitoring it. But it's like, damn, I must be in every honeypot from the last 20 years of the internet being
Well,
what it is.
it's yeah, I know. It's the downfall of being of that generation where it's like, we sort of were the first ones on the internet pioneering it out of the gate and then watched it get captured. And now I think we're breaking through to a new renaissance where we're
Yeah.
building this new type of, it's a tall order, right? You're building a whole new internet, right? But I think
Hmm.
that's really what's going on. And people were eventually gonna, see it and break through. We're building the rooms and like we're asking people
Yeah.
just come hang out with us.
Come hang out, put up a recipe, and also like come to our things. Like there's events all around the country, and use the apps. We need users to give feedback, and just to kind of Nostr's still very new, and I think some of the kinks are being worked out, but also like there's not a lot of kinks now like there used to be. Like things have gotten just a lot better. And I think vibe coding helping with that. And okay, so you've been to, well, you host Nostr Valley because you're in the Eastern Seaboard area, and so that's your thing. And you've been to Nostrville. Have you been to any other Nostr events around the country, around the world?
Well, coming up, gonna be at Nostr Nights coming up in February 2nd, a couple weeks. So,
Nashville.
but yeah, down in Nashville. But outside of that, I have not been traveled to other events. I've been to other Bitcoin meetups, but the Nostr specific ones only been to a handful.
Okay, cool. So now
But certainly, this year, looking forward to making it to more of them.
getting out there more. Yeah, we need more Seth in the world. I think because Seth is very chill, very balanced. Always good to talk to Seth, and more people need to realize that it's like a lot of people like Seth, and it's not just all like I don't know, like Bitcoin influencers or like I don't know what people perceive Nostr to be, but I think people need to see that it's just normal people. And damn it, Seth, you're normal. You're like on an even keel. You're you're normal and chill.
NPC right here.
Yeah, you're such. I wouldn't go that far. You're still one of my people, right? You're
No,
still a
I know.
sober
I don't
person.
think you can be an NPC on Nostr. I think you broke the ball with that one.
Yeah, I think Nostr's getting ready to get beyond the purple wall, which is a good thing. So okay, so that leads me to my next question. So, like, when it comes to like value for value music and kind of like experience like the music side of Nostr, like you haven't been like physically to I think a lot of shows, but I think you've probably watched some online or
Got to
how do
see
you?
Ainsley live in State College at an
Yeah.
impromptu
Oh yeah,
show.
that's right.
That
We
was
threw her
awesome.
on stage at that cidery, which was an amazing
Yeah.
side. What was the cidery called? Cider works. I don't remember forget the name.
814 Cidery. Yeah.
814 Cidery, and there was these guys were playing, and we were like, "Hey, go ask him! Like, go ask him if he can jump on stage and use their guitar." I think she had her own guitar in the car though, but it just became an impromptu show, and with Ainsley, and I
Yeah.
think we put videos of it on Nostr because we didn't like live stream it to Nostr. It was that spontaneous. It was not planned.
Yeah. Literally, we're sitting around a fire and somebody's like, "Hey, Ainsley, you want to play?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
I think it was Derek started that. I think Derek
Yeah.
instigated as Derek does, and Ainsley was like, I don't know, because they've just been driving in, I don't know, from DC, which I guess is not that far, but isn't it like a couple
Yeah.
hours State College to DC? So, but I was like, you don't have to, and she's like, no, I can do this, I can do a medley of like Sabrina Carpenter and so and so, and I was like, okay, Ainsley just like she took it off like she took off running with it, like, oh, okay, I'll do a spontaneous. I got my guitar in
Yeah.
the car. I'll put it together. And it was fun. It was just one of those I don't know fun
It
things
was.
that I. Do you think that we got
Well,
people?
it was like one of those moments,
Oh, go ahead.
like you had to be there, right? It's
Yeah,
like one of those moments in time. You just had to be there. Like you can't explain it. You like the feeling was just like,
yeah,
okay, this is unique. We're not going to do this again. And like you had to been there, right? It was just a
yeah.
moment in time.
It was a special moment. And do you think that people there at the cidery who didn't know, like, it was a gathering of like Nostr people. Do you think that like anybody there became Nostr curious because like here's this weird group of people who just like got really excited about throwing a person on stage?
Yeah, right. Well, I did see some cameras out, like sneaking through, like like we're watching,
Yeah,
right, and trying to do recording and stuff. Um, yeah, the hard thing about like selling Nostr, I think it needs to sell itself a little bit, like through
yeah, it does.
music or recipes or whatever, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to sell people. I know
It
Derek and I
is.
were out a couple weeks ago trying to pitch a stranger about joining Nostr, and I took a picture of my cheesesteak and like put it on Nostr. I'm like, tell my friend that we can, and like 60 people zap me or something like that, and still not convinced. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
people just have they'll
yeah.
discover it whenever they're ready.
Oh, they're like, cool story, bro. Okay, did you see the game last night? It's
Yeah,
like that. It's
right,
like,
right.
are you like a big consumer of the, I don't know, for lack of a better term, value for value music? Are you into that ecosystem?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I love the Fountain app so great, and they have the different tracks that are down there. So it's like a cool way to just discover new music. And like we were talking earlier, like some of this music that's on Nostr, is really good, and it's
Good.
like really good original music, and it's like that '90s style. It feels like at least some of the
That
artists, right?
grunge.
Yeah, a little bit of that, but like there's such a mix of different things. I was listening to a song like Mookie, I think it is, Low Life,
Yeah.
which is a good
Yeah.
tune. Um, Lil Joe Martin had him on earlier today. And there's
Love
this
me
new
some
artist
Joe.
out there named Haleen who I've been really liking
Yes.
some of her. I think it's like a
They're
man and a woman
a
combo. I don't,
duo,
but
I think.
a duo, yeah.
Yeah,
But
they
it's
have
really
really
good, like, kinda
good
soft melodic music. It's
like
really
yoga
good, so
music. Like every song they have, I could put on a play. I could just play every song they have. I could make a playlist of it. It would be perfect for me teaching yoga, and that's
yeah, it's
something
a
that.
vibe.
Yeah, they're very good. I need to meet. Now they're gonna have to be on Radio Detox. I'm gonna chase them down. I'm gonna stalk them. There was one
Bring
time
them
that
on,
I
Heather, bring them on.
bring them on the show, bring them on Radio Detox. I used to play. I would try to play as much like value verse kind of music in my yoga classes, and I would go around to different apartments. I would teach yoga at apartments because they would contract us to come in and teach classes. So they even had cooking classes, but I didn't teach cooking classes. But I would teach yoga classes, and then like I don't know, like people would show up, and or, random groups of people would show up, and so I would usually not see people too many times in a row. Like it wouldn't be repeat people because it was just like an added value thing at the apartment complex. So like it was kind of transient. Never knew who was going to show up, but I would be like, what, let me just like I'll give it my all. I'll teach a class. I'll play some value verse music off of Wavelake. And I remember teaching one day, one student showed up and I played my yoga playlist from Wavelake that I'd created. And like, I think one of the songs was Ainsley, but I was like, well, hey, what'd you think of the music during class? Like just out of curiosity. And she was like, oh, that was really good. And like, and it was one of those things where I was like, well, this is music and it's free. Like you can just download this app, this Wavelake app, and you can just listen to this music. And here's the artist. And it was kind of like, this was I think before this backlash hit over Spotify. There's a lot of Spotify backlash now, which
Mhm.
is lovely to see. A lot of people are talking about ditching Spotify, but then they go to first. They haven't found Nostr. They haven't found Wavelake. They haven't found Fountain, but they go first to like the familiar big name things. And I don't remember them all because some of them aren't familiar to me because I do Tidal and I have Apple Music, but I haven't had Spotify. And then I stay in the value verse. I stay where when I listen to music, I can pay the artist directly in Bitcoin while listening to Fountain or listening to music on Wavelake. And so like people go, okay, if I ditch Spotify, let me first go to Apple Music and let me go to Tidal. And then there's like maybe like half a dozen other like big name kind of music apps where it's going to be the mainstream music. It's going to be your Chapel Roan and your Taylor Swift and you want to hear Freebird and you want to hear Nirvana. It's like that. But like the music that Seth and I are talking about is completely independent music. It might be on your Spotify. It might be on your Apple Music, but it won't be on Radio Detox because I am not going to pay the performance rights fees, which are like 6 figures. I'm going to stick with artists who, quite frankly, aren't. They may or may not be a part of that. They could use the promotion. They could use the discoverability so much more. And then if you listen to the podcast, like when Seth and I are done talking, I want to play the songs that he likes so that you can hear them at the end of the podcast. And then when you're listening, if you're on Fountain, if you're on some fancy podcasting 2.0 enabled music app, like for example, like when I listen to podcasts, I'm streaming my sats to the podcast I'm listening to, and it's going to go to the artist that's playing, because we have the technology to kind of keep these things separate and go, well, if Heather's playing the Helene music on the podcast, and if that's when you're streaming during the podcast and Helene is playing, that money is not going to me and Seth. Like during the portion of the podcast where Seth and I are talking, like I'm doing a little Zap split with Seth. So Seth's my guest. He's going to get a portion of the proceeds. So he's going to half the proceeds. But when the music starts playing and you're streaming the sats or you're zapping or you're boosting, your money's going directly to those artists. And that's something that you can't do on Apple. You can't do on Spotify. And you know what? The artists are going to earn more money through this podcast than they've probably ever learned or earned on, Spotify. That's for sure. Sarah Jade has said that. She said that, I think, in 2024. I've earned more money bitching about Spotify than I ever earned having my music on Spotify. And that's just, if people are thinking, well, I want to ditch Spotify, like we're telling you all about the places you can go to not just ditch Spotify, but start engaging in a better way. It brings us kind of full circle, kind of to where you joined Nostr and felt like things were just better.
Yeah, well, I think it's, people will eventually discover it. It's tough being over here and yelling from the rooftops, "Hey, we got a better way." And it's like the same
Oh,
quality of
yes.
technology, right? But people are used to familiar, and they'll discover it, when the time's right. I feel like it's like one of those
Yeah.
things. Nostr's a discovery. You have to
Yeah.
stumble upon it and come in and, get the ask Nostr, GM, sort of get all the flavors and and adapt to the culture, because it is
Yeah.
it's a culture shift in a good
It
way
is.
that
Because we talk to each
I
other,
think
and
some of the things.
that's what you're talking about. Is like the Ask Noster is hashtag Ask Noster. You got a question? Just hashtag it Ask Noster. You get a ton of engagement. You actually get responses, and GM is just
Right.
getting up and saying good morning. You can literally get on Noster every morning and just type GM and everybody will GM back at you. Like you'll get like half a dozen responses every day, at least, of people saying,
And
okay, good
this is
morning.
like common. It's common courtesy. It's
Mm-hmm.
good morning, hello. It's like we gotta reintroduce manners into society, and
Yes.
we're
We're starting on Nostr. All right. So we got Helene was one of your picks. So let me see. We got Helene, and you like the grunge.
mm,
You like the Joe Martin. Wait, I'm forgetting the third artist you mentioned already. Joe Martin,
Mookie.
Helene, Mookie. Yes, there was a new Mookie song I found
Yeah,
yesterday too. I already forgot the name of the Mookie song, but it's on
yeah,
my Fountain playlist. So I gave it a little heart on Fountain, and then I can always go back and find all the songs that I liked, the previous day or week or whatever, because I forget. I'm terrible. That's why I make playlists. It's the most important thing. Use Fountain and yeah, Wave Lake, make playlists there so that you don't forget your songs that you like. I have miles of playlists, and that's how I'm keeping it together. So, well, thank you for being my guest on Radio Detox. You've had a good 3 years of detox off of the Bitcoin or the fiat, gnarly, nasty Bitcoin Twitter. Well, you're not even on Twitter anymore. You've left. You left at some point finally. Like
well, I
did
do
you
have
delete?
a Zap.Cooking account, so
That's right.
I fumbled my way back in for marketing purposes, but
So people can know
it's
about Zap.Cooking. You know what? You got to do it. Some of us are taking a lot of crap for being on Twitter. Because like I'm like Little Miss Nostr, right? I'm trying to get people to get on Nostr, but I've gone back to all of the evil empires to try to get people interested somehow in Nostr. I think there are a select few of us who are on Bitcoin. I don't think anybody sees us, but we're just like, hey, come to Nostr. It's more fun.
yeah.
We've got Zap.Cooking. We've got music. We've got, places you can blog on Nostr. It's not like Twitter where we make you like
I know.
pay to write a longer post. Like it's really a complete and total system. I think it's getting better. Every week I probably catch myself
Oh
like,
my gosh.
yeah, like I'll be on Twitter and Twitter doesn't work. Although all the time I'm catching myself saying Nostr works better than this. I can get on anything. I can get on
Yeah,
Facebook and I go, God, this works like crap. Like Nostr works better than this. Like we're reaching a point where I think
it really
Nostr
does.
works better than a lot of things that people are used to. Whereas 3 years ago, yeah, Nostr didn't work so great back 3 years ago. So now
Yeah,
things
we're
things
getting
are so
better,
better.
and no, it's yeah. Thanks for having me on, and certainly Zap.Cooking. We're making a lot of progress. With the vibe coding. Daniel and myself been working on it. Jack Shikani's still involved. He was the last developer who worked on it.
Hmm.
But we're making a lot of progress, and we're making it user friendly, and that's the goal, is to try to bring people into a community, be members of our community, and build new ways to have conversations with each other.
Amen. In order for Nostr to succeed, what is the most important thing? Just so that Nostr cannot fail. Like failure is not an option, and like we'll be the last people here if it were to fail. But I mean, like, what would your one thing be to ensure that Nostr does not fail?
Well, I think there's a core group of people who just aren't going away. If you've been here long enough, you're just not going away. So there is going to be that core group of people who are going to continue to talk about it. We got to continue to do things like this, face-to-face interviews. You get more media out there. One of the things I
Yeah.
noticed the other day is, like, I did a AI search, and I said, how many books are there on Bitcoin? There's like 30,000 books on Bitcoin. I'm like, how
God.
many on Nostr? It's like zero.
Yeah,
So,
there's like one.
like, between,
Hodlbod wrote one book. Hodlbod wrote a book. It's a little more
okay.
developer, but it's a little more deep. Like it's not. I love you, Hodlbod. I love you, sir. But it's not a mainstream book. And I've thought about like how do you tell the Nostr story about how all these, I don't know, nerds from across the country, we all kind of found each other, created a better working Nostr, through creating apps. And then we created more apps, and vibe coding came along, and we kept creating, like we built apps with like nothing 3 years ago because we didn't have anything. Now we have vibe coding. Oh, and by the way, we've created events all over the country, all over the world, and we've gone to like Bitcoin events to try to like put our foot in the door there. And like we had the Nostr Lounge at the Bitcoin conference last year, and I don't know if we'll have that same thing again, but we're going to try to put our foot in the door at the same conference for 2026. And so we just kind of like we've created friendships, we've created a network, we've created events, we've created apps, and like the world hardly knows because we don't get all the attention of the things that are companies, like Blue Sky. It's like, okay, those nerds over there with their protocol. Nah, whatever about them. You know, they don't, we don't have a company that makes money that's a startup that's going to get an IPO someday. So we're just not a sexy story. So that's the only reason why we haven't gotten any attention, because we're just a community of people who build stuff the way they want it to be, with no permission. We just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like one of the things that is a misconception, is like, we got to scale, but I think we got to just build and grow and make sure that the thing's resilient. And then, we'll scale when the time's right. But I think having our
Yeah.
small group of whatever it is, 50,000 users is a feature, not a bug.
Exactly. And then someday it'll be, I guess ready for when people say, "Oh, I'm tired of the capture. Like I'm tired of the platform capture and the endless fees or the endless moderation that censors me or the endless recurring monthly subscriptions to things that are gonna mute me and downvote me anyway." And it's not fun because people have to self-censor, like this. Ultimately, this video will be on YouTube, so like I'm gonna be super like, as when I'm in editing, might mute some word I say because I don't know. Are they gonna?
Yeah.
Because
We
I think
love you,
about that.
YouTube. Please.
Now we love you. You're such a wonderful company. Like,
Yeah, right.
but no, like
That
I
didn't.
was.
It's like, thank
I
you, Elon. Thank you.
Yeah, like thank you. Yeah, Grok AI. We love that one. It's
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that one. When I'm on Twitter, I'll just
Yeah.
extol its virtues when in real life. It's like there are articles about it like ruining the Memphis community and lying about things that they did to bring the company there. And then there's the other thing that I won't say out loud because I don't want to get banned from YouTube that Grok AI did quite recently that I was in the news, and we'll just leave those words off of the podcast for fear of being banned on YouTube. But of course, where this is playing on, I'm hosted on Podhome and in the world of RSS, it's in Fountain, it'll be fine. I won't get banned there. But where this exists on legacy platforms, I'm just like, yeah, ban me someday. Prove my point because I used the wrong word or whatever. It's some point. I
Yeah.
don't put the music in the YouTube version of Radio Detox. I keep that obviously in the audio version so that people, when they're zapping and boosting it to the artist, and I've thought about putting it
That's
on
awesome.
YouTube. Yeah, if artists had a video, I know Ainsley has videos, but like if I put it in the video version, like if I put an Ainsley video in the YouTube version, it would only succeed at like it would promote her, which I think would be good, but she wouldn't get paid from that being on YouTube. That's a whole different. She would have to have we'd have to have some major monetization, set up, and that doesn't exist on YouTube. You have to jump through all of the YouTube hoops before your YouTube channel can be monetized. You basically have to work for YouTube in order to earn your way to monetization, and that's something that's unfair. And that's something that just isn't a part of the Nostr universe at all. So, yeah, I could put that Ainsley video if she gave it to me. I could put it in at the end of our video, right? Just so people could see it, but I'd rather just link to it in the comments, and maybe people will discover an artist that way. But, I'll put the interviews on YouTube so people can see the talking head portion of it, but the music will always stay in the value verse so that the artists get the money and the artists get a little play too. I think that's the most important thing. So that's my thing. Love it. All right. Thank you, Seth. Thanks for your time. Thanks for getting Zap.Cooking going. Sober Key, Grateful Day. What am I? Nostr Valley. You've been a grade A 5-star Nostrich for 3 years, and we thank you for your service.
Well, thanks for having me, and appreciate you as well, Heather. Thank you.